welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond, a show about reviewing horror movies for the living to understand the dead. I'm your host, Ivotres Littles, and this is Shudderary, where we go behind the screens of Shudder original and exclusive movies. Today, I have an awesome and talented guest. She's a writer. She's also one of the members of the Witch Finger horror podcast. She also hosts Rue Morgue's The Rewind Zone. Yasmina, thank
What's
you
up?
for joining me.
How is it going? That was a fabulous introduction.
Oh, thank you.
You made me sound very professional.
Of course. There's no other way.
I agree.
How have you been?
I've been doing good despite the world in the state that it's in. Basically just spend a lot of time reading books and writing my blog and recording my podcast and watching a lot of Star Trek and a lot of old shows as well. How about you?
Doing what I can to survive out here. It's just craziness. It's you just take it one day at a time.
Yeah, very true, definitely.
And I also noticed you have a lot of VHS tapes back there.
Oh, you know.
So you're a collector?
I noticed your little pile over there too.
Can't compare to yours.
I know. It's getting out of hand at this point because I just live in a 1-bedroom apartment and I don't have any more room for another shelf. So I started just like stacking tapes on the ground in the corner. I shoved them up on top of my amp. Like I have to like just find whatever little areas in my apartment that I can just like shove stacks into, because like I can't stop buying them, you know. Like I've got lots of friends who are sellers and they'll reach out to me and be like, oh, I know you want this one, I know it's on your list, and I'll be like, well, I can't say no. So enjoy. Like I know a lot of collectors that actually collect the tapes and don't watch them because they're like afraid of ruining the film. But like for me personally, I actually enjoy watching like the shitty tracking because it just makes it feel even more nostalgic. Like when you're watching it, it's like being in the 80s. Like that's what I also really liked about that WHNUF Halloween special. Movie, like all the tracking that they added in it to like make it like I was like transported into the 80s and it was fabulous. So,
it is the best time. So you have you're one of the members of Witch Finger podcast. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started it about 5 years ago, and me and my best friend Morgan tend to watch shitty 80s horror movies. And one day I just had this like epiphany and I was just like, why don't we just record it and put it on the internet and see if people are interested in listening to it? And she was like, that's a great idea. I believe that's what a podcast is. And at the time I was living with Megan, and obviously Megan is a huge horror fan as well. And I was just like, okay, let's fucking like actually do this. And the three of us got together and we talked about it. We're like, great idea, let's do it. And that's how it started. And it's going great ever since then. I think we just released our 52nd episode on brain damage. And it's basically, okay, we're called a horror podcast, but I think that we're a comedy podcast because even the movies that we do, it's usually an 80s horror movie or 90s. We go into intense trivia on the people who made the movie. So we talk less about the actual movie and more about the people who made them. Like I get real deep in my research when I'm looking up like the actors and the directors and the writers and everything like that. And I actually love it so much because I'm such a nerd that this knowledge stays with me.
So when I contacted you to be a guest on here, I asked you to pick a movie from Shudder. Now, all the horror content creators, podcasters, or YouTubers pick the movie from Shudder. As long as it's exclusive or original, they pick. I do not pick them. You pick, what, which is obvious.
I know.
They can see it. Psycho Goreman, and I have not seen all the movies on Shudder because I've been waiting for this day. But I was scared because the last time that we had a discussion, the cheesiest horror films, and so even then I had guests pick the movie, and then I would go watch it if I haven't.
Yeah.
And I saw Troll 2, and I've never forgive you.
Yeah.
I still bring that up.
I love that. Like we did for Horror Movies and Beyond. We each picked 3 of our favorite 80s cheesy horror movies, and I think I can't remember what the other ones that I chose, but Troll 2 were one of them. Like that is like the epitome of like a shitty like 80s horror movie. Even I think it's 90s, but whatever. But I remember like when I gave you my picks, you were like, I've actually never seen Troll 2, and I was just like, oh my god, like haha, funny joke. But then like but then you kind of also said the same to me, because one of your picks was Street Trash, and I had never seen Street Trash. So you were just like, holy shit, you've never seen Street Trash. But then I have not been able to recover since Street Trash as well. So we both traumatized.
If you haven't seen Troll 2 or even Street Trash, check them out.
Wow.
But there's nothing else I could say about Troll 2. There's no words for that film.
I know,
so
right?
We'll move on from there.
Yeah, but yeah, the choosing Psycho Goreman, it does make sense because of the video that we did.
Yeah, I was nervous. I was very nervous. But surprisingly, it was a fun film to watch, and it made me laugh. It just made me remember Power Rangers for some reason.
Yeah.
I was sitting there, it's like, wow, why am I reminiscing on Power Rangers when I'm
That makes sense. I can see, I never watched it. I remember when Power Rangers was on TV, and I caught it like every once in a while, but I now that you're saying that, it kind of makes sense because of the different the council, like all the different aliens like sitting at the council, and like the monster fight in the woods and all that. Like, you're right, it is very Power Rangers. I never made that connection.
The director has to be a big fan of something like that, or even Star Wars. I mean, it just had so much of that in it. There will be spoilers, so if you guys do not want to hear any spoilers, go check it out on Shudder right now. But before you do that, make sure you hit subscribe and like before you go do that. But if you're going to stick around, enjoy. So
so if you watch the movie, we're literally just going to sit here and reminisce on it. But if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, literally stop watching right now. Because I'm just going to talk a shit ton about very specific things and things about this movie.
Why did you pick this movie?
I'll tell you. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I'm so happy you asked. I picked this movie for a few reasons. The first reason, I am Canadian. I live in Ontario, Canada. So Psycho Goreman is a Canadian production. So gotta represent my country. And I also chose it because the director, what is his name?
Stephen Kostanski?
Okay, Kostanski. Stephen Kostanski. So when Psycho Goreman first came out, like, people on the internet were losing their minds. And initially, when everybody was talking about this movie, like, I looked it up, and I gotta say something, like, I'm not into children. I mean, like, I don't if you love children, that's cool. Like, I'm not shitting on your love for the kids or anything like that, but usually any movies that have like children as like main characters, like I kind of like I just usually am not very like interested initially. So when I did watch the trailer, I was just like, oh well, like the costume looks really cool, the special effects look impressive, but there's kids in it. I don't know. But then I researched the director, and he also did The Void, and The Void was like one of my like favorite movies that came out in the last 10 years. Like that movie blew my mind. But it's a very serious movie. It's not a comedy. It's not cheesy like Psycho Goreman. So I appreciated that he strayed from that category and did something different. And so based on my knowledge of like my appreciation for The Void, I decided to watch it. And so I just watched it like a few months ago for the first time. And I was like, holy shit, like this movie is, everybody was right. Everybody was right. This movie is awesome. And like the kids aren't like normal, like annoying kids. Like they, like I'll get into the details about like Mimi later. But yeah, like I was just so impressed with it that I decided for those reasons, like for being a big fan of The Void and being a Canadian are like the main reasons why I chose this movie.
Okay. This movie was wild.
That is one word for it.
It didn't, I didn't expect what I got. I was
Same.
thinking it was, even when you look at it, it just looked like this alien is just gonna just brutalize everybody.
Yeah.
You did not think, I didn't watch any trailer. I just went straight to it. I just thought these kids, it was like this adventure. I didn't think it was going to be comedy. I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought too. And like, but then when I watched it, I was like, it's actually hilarious. Like every character's lines are so funny.
I mean, even when you meet Luke and Mimi. Okay. Luke is the wimpiest boy I've ever met.
Right.
And Mimi was just a total
badass bitch, man. Like she was fucking awesome. Like here's the thing, okay?
Gosh.
Like I want to go back to the children thing very quickly. Like I don't have children. I don't want children. And like I have nothing but the utmost respect for like parents and mothers like of the world. Like it's just not for me. Like I'm just not into that at all. And but like I don't know, for me, like even when I do speak to children, like I don't talk to them like like little kids. Like I just like talk to them like they're adults. And what I really loved about Mimi is that she acted like a fucking adult woman who doesn't give a fuck. And like that's what I appreciated about her character. And like that little girl, that actress, that was like her first movie, I'm pretty sure. And she reminded me of the little girl in Problem Child 2. And when I was a little girl, like I was the complete opposite of that. Like I was very shy, docile, never spoke, never stood up for myself. And I remember watching Problem Child 2, like when I was a little kid, and like idolizing that little girl and like wishing I had the balls to be like that. And like this girl, like I'm really curious if like to prep for shooting, if she watched Problem Child 2, because like there's so many correlations between the two characters. And like I just if I had a daughter, like that's exactly how I would raise her to be. Like take no shit, and like she's just like, nobody tells me what to do, not you, and like she is like a bully at times, but she learns.
Did not care. There's so many things in this film, but the parents, I blame the parents. I mean, because when you meet the parents, the mom and Mimi were similar in attitude.
Yeah.
The dad, he just,
oh my
I think
God,
his name was Greg. He was just so pathetic. Like it just seemed like he was a wimp. And then you had Luke that was just following behind him. But I love the role, how the female roles were more dominant and more in power.
Yeah.
Than the Melrose, because you had Goreman, Psycho Goreman, after they tried to figure out his name. Now that was funny.
I know, right?
And he was already, he's an alien, and he had a bad attitude and just on a rampage of murder. I can't remember what the cops said to make him like this melted goo.
Yeah.
That was like his, like, with his hands stuck with the gun and just
right?
shooting.
Yeah.
That reminded me of that 80s film where the guy hand was a gun. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I actually, like, another thing that I really admired about this movie, and I would love to meet the director just to have, like, a conversation with him, because there were so many, like, things like that, like, that I'm curious if they were inspirations for him as a fan of, like, some of these movies. And, like, there's so many things that I noticed in Psycho Goreman where I'm just like, that's like Videodrome. The director must love Videodrome. And then, like, the whole, like, digging the hole in the yard to find the gem is like the gate. And that's like obviously my favorite movie. And fucking, like, so this guy must love the gate. And there was another one too, like, that I noticed. It was like in the Alien Council, the fucking all the fucking different monsters have, like,
is it the monster with the
brain and the eyes? Yeah, so it's like he kind of had like a Mr. Freeze going on, but he was like a talking brain with, like, eyeballs. And, like, but that guy, like, I was just like, the director must fucking love Blood Diner or RoboCop 2, because I was like, that character is exactly like the talking brain in those two movies as well. So that's why I want to have a conversation with the director and be like, oh, I see that you're also a fan of these movies that I admire, and I noticed this shit in your movie, and, like, I'm curious if it was, like, done on purpose. You know what I mean?
You know, when Mimi, she was so bossy. Oh my goodness. I was like, this girl needs her butt spanked.
I know.
But it was a reason for it, because it seemed like she got that behavior from her mom.
Yeah.
Because how her mom was treating their dad. But when what's his name? The friend of Luke.
Oh my god, that gets turned into the brain.
Alistair.
Alistair.
He wanted to, like, him to be like a slave or something. So the Goreman turned him into. I thought he was going to be a love slave. I didn't know he was going to turn him into some brain. Brain with googly eyes
and, like, fucking, like, tentacles and stuff. Like,
you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of, as soon as I saw it, the only thing that came to mind was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the brain. With whatever. And
wait, no, that's not the name. That's Masters.
No, it's I can't think of his name, but he was in Krang. Yeah. And
I was thinking like, Karg from Masters of the Universe.
That one, and
too many aliens.
And also the brain. He could have gotten the brain from where's that movie? Invaders from Mars. And yeah. So those are the two things that popped in my head, and it was just like, wow. Yeah. Like, and they went to the diner.
Influence. Yeah, there's a lot of 80s influence in this movie, and, like, I'm curious if other people, like, notice this shit. Like, this is like what we were talking about earlier about, like, being a nerd. And, like, having all this, like, dense knowledge of, like, trivia of all these movies that we enjoy. And, like, another thing that I noticed too was, like, I'm curious if this guy loves Star Trek too, because Psycho Goreman's blood is pink, just like Klingons. So I'm curious about that as well.
I didn't even. The council. The whole council thing just reminds me of Star Wars.
Yeah,
like all just the way they were talking and how they were discussing the makeup effects, the practical effects. Was amazing. Like, I was really looking at the characters. That was a lot of work.
So much work. Like, you can see how much work they fucking put into the special effects of all of the different unique alien characters. Like there was some crazy ass like medieval like Magic the Gathering like D&D looking goblins and shit. Like there were so many of them that we probably would be sitting here talking for like 2 hours going over like all the details of like all the different characters. But one of my favorite things is I kind of like how simple they made Pandora look with like the white paint all over her. And the reason why is because it's a perfect palette for blood splatter on like a white background. And like at the beginning when she's talking and they summon that human girl and she turns her into like a cube of like goo and like smashes it on the table, and like when she wipes like the blood and smears it like across her face, like that perfect contrast of like blood on white, like it makes me think of have you ever seen Brandon Cronenberg's movie Antiviral? It's a great movie, but it's very like placid looking, like the colors and the tones are very like white and gray because it's a very clinical like movie, but they do that like to show the contrast of like when shit gets bloody, and it just accentuates like the gore.
I was trying to figure out, when did this take place? Because I was looking at their outfits when they were walking back with their friend, and he was in and one of them, Luke, was carrying the TV. And I was like, that's an old school TV.
Yeah.
Even their clothes look 80s.
And that's what makes 90s. Me think that this guy, the director, writer, is obviously like a huge fan of the 80s, because he incorporated all these little influential things like from 80s movies. I think that it was in modern day, but this is like another thing that I loved about this movie as a Canadian. It was filmed in St. Catharines, and St. Catharines is like about like a couple hours north of Toronto. And like as an Ontario resident, like while watching this movie, like I was just like filled with like it was very personal to me, you know what I mean? Like I'd be like, those are some motherfucking Ontario woods. And like there's like one scene where like you see a Canada Post mailman like walking on the street, and but that maybe you thought that it was supposed to take place in the 80s, but that's just the way that Canada looks. Because we're kind of, you know, like maybe we're just a little like ghetto, maybe. But yeah, like the factory scene and like all the scenes and like the streets, like in the neighborhood, and that look, like that 80s like look that you're talking about, like that's just what Ontario looks like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. We got to talk about Crazy Ball or Dodgeball.
You know what's funny? I watched it again today, and like I was like, okay, I think I actually get the rules like a little bit more now.
Yeah. The first time she was saying, I was like, this is complicated. And then when the second time, because I only watched it once, and when they explained it the second time, and they actually played, you get it. Like, at least I think I got it, because, you know, dodgeball, both of you, regular dodgeball that I know.
Yeah.
You know, the opponents stand over there, and then you run, and then there's like, 4 or 5 balls, depending on how many people. Yeah. And then whoever grab one, you throw it. Where this one, you throw it the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And then you run and get it, and then you throw.
Yeah.
And then if the balls hit, you have to do some
jumping jacks.
It.
Yeah, I think jumping jacks, and then but like if the balls miss the other person, I think like the other person has to spin around up in like 10 circles or something. But then if the balls hit each other, that's when there's like
punch somebody.
Yeah, it's like a new challenge or something like that. And this fucking guy, I guarantee, is a D&D player, because like these rules. Like there's lots of rules in D&D and like Magic the Gathering, and like I'm pretty sure like the name of the planet that PG is from is like based off of something D&D.
Oh yeah.
He's a gamer for sure.
Yeah, the guy.
This man is a gamer for sure.
Yeah, the guy. It was. Oh my god, I forget it. I probably have it here in my notes. But yeah, he did get the name. Oh, here we go, Gygax. Anyway, that's why I would never be good at D&D, because those rules were just ridiculous.
Okay, well, let me tell you what. Like, I've only played D&D once, but I have more experience with Magic. But D&D is it's definitely way less complicated than that fucking game that they play in this movie. Trust me.
See, I missed the part of them spinning and jumping jacks. I saw them doing the stuff, but I was like, so
right?
I just like regular dodgeball.
I love how like the one guy like in the Alien Council, when they're like watching it on the screen, and he's like, I do not get sports, and I was like, me too, man. Like, I don't get football, like I don't get that shit at all. But yeah, like even like all the like the goblin guy who has like the crown and everything, like he's very, very fucking like Tolkien like folklore type of like goblin and all these creatures. Like, that's just it. I feel like Psycho Goreman is a representation of a D&D game, like mixed with 80s horror. Like those must be this writer's hobbies and like passions. Like, I just got that vibe when I watched it.
You can't forget the part where they turn into a band. I didn't even know they were a band.
That part is so awesome.
It was so random,
cute. Like, that part is so adorable. Because like
you have him playing. You have the Goreman up there.
Drums.
He's like, trying to figure out. Luke was on the whatever guitar.
Yeah, and I love that she was the singer. Like,
in the brain,
she's such a badass. And the fucking brain guy, like Alistair's playing like the keyboards, but he's like got his tentacles and he's like playing it like this. But like, that part's fucking amazing because of the montage of them like shopping for all the different outfits for him. And like, but the outfit that they stuck with his hat and his little like hanky and stuff, that is Sam Neill's outfit in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. It was so random because you didn't see it coming. You didn't even know they were in the band. And
that's what I liked about it.
It was like, I was like, when did it turn into that?
And like, that's the thing that I enjoy about like new movies is like the originality, like the uniqueness, and like, you know, it is when you're surprised, like, and you have like no idea what's going to happen next. Like, that's the thing, is that, like you said, you didn't watch the trailer and I watched the trailer, but we both made our assumptions about this movie, right? But then when we watched it, we were like pleasantly surprised. Like, those are the types of new movies that are so captivating to me. And the first time I watched it with my sister last year, like, I never thought that I would ever utter the words, did he just make a sword out of body parts?
I know, he was just like ripping them off.
I was like, what the fuck?
He could have just killed her.
I
was thinking, why is he doing all this? Like, just rip her head off. Like, he had to take every part of her to make a sword. And I was like,
but like, have you ever seen that in a movie before? You know what I mean? It's just like, bless the people who like wrote that. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my god. Okay. Remember when he was discussing how it was on their planet or galaxy?
Yeah.
And he was talking about the honorable ways to die.
Oh my god, the warrior's death.
Yeah, and I was thinking, give me a second here. When he said warrior's death, and I was thinking, oh, a warrior's death, I've seen a lot in films that are not even horror films. Like, they walk off the plank, or they get stabbed by the king or something, or shot, or there's all, just the warrior's death. It means something. When he was like, oh, it's an honor. So then when you see how it happens, he's like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
Hell no. Oh, hell no. I love that. That's like the best way to describe that.
I don't want the warrior's death.
That shit was so fucking ridiculous too. And like, but it was like out of nowhere. Like you didn't expect that to happen at all, and you're just like, whoa, 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 whoa! Like,
I mean, and then you just see him just. That's terrible.
I know, I know.
I don't want.
But it's genius at the same time. Like it's like terrible, but it's genius. Like,
yeah,
I love it. It's it's a very
I wouldn't
unique.
Go that way.
Oh fuck no. No way. That's like, you know what that makes me think of, actually? That makes me think of that man who tried to videotape himself being eaten alive by an anaconda, but it didn't work because he's a fucking idiot.
Bro, where is this?
I can't remember, but it's on YouTube. Look that shit up. There was like
is that real?
Oh yeah, yeah. There was like a fucking like man who wanted to get filmed being eaten by an anaconda, and him and his fucking team, like, they go to the Amazon and shit. I know. And but the thing, you know what's really funny about it though, is the reason why it didn't work. Like, this fucking idiot didn't do his research and didn't understand how snakes eat. And
they suffocate you, they squeeze you.
Like, if you are bigger than the snake, they have to squeeze you down into a size that can fit in their jaw. And so the first thing that the fucking snake tries to do is break his arms. And then the guy's like, oh, I give up. And it's just like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? Like,
yeah, they squeeze you. Yeah, it's suffocating. So every time you try to breathe, they squeeze closer and
like,
closer
you're fucking
to you. Just
dead before you even get swallowed.
Unless
by
they attached a GoPro and then just.
He had a scuba gear on, and he had a video camera that was like attached to his head, but he didn't even make it into the snake.
Yeah, so, but anyway, back to Goreman.
Back to Psycho Goreman, which we talk about next.
This was really fun, but did you learn anything from watching this? Like any because I was the part that got me, like, I was like, okay, where's this going? Okay, Mimi has this attitude. Oh, before I get into that, the bathroom scene where they had to go and get the parents to tell them where they're at
when the dad's taking a shit.
Yeah, and it was like, you gotta find.
And that part was also so precious to me too, because the street that he says is a Canadian street. Like, he says Ryerson Avenue. Ryerson Avenue is like it's a huge street in Toronto. So that was like another part where I was just like, oh, Ryerson. But it's funny because he's like shitting his pants and like fucking
like literally.
I know.
And then when he goes away, he's like, well, where are you at? And it comes back.
Right. I know. It comes back like 3 times. That part is really funny for me as well, because like right before that scene, the mom finally like calls the dad out on his like lazy bullshit, and she's finally like, oh yeah, so then what do you do? Tell me, what do you do? And he just like, he's like stumped because he doesn't do anything, and she's like, I'm waiting. And then he goes to the bathroom and he's like shitting and like having an argument. He's like yelling at himself. He's like, you think you're better than me? You think you're better than me? Like, that's how like lazy people are. And just like, I hate laziness like as a trait in general. And like, why I love the dad so much is because that actor like perfectly executed that that like he like embodied it so well, because like I think we've all known people like that once or twice in our lives, and but the way that he does it was so it was very entertaining. Like, I thought that he was hilarious, like from beginning to end, and it's like he owned it like in a very comedic way that it didn't make me hate him, because I do hate laziness and I do hate lazy people. but he just, I don't know, man, like the dad, he was so fucking funny. Like, I think even in like the first conversation that he has with the kids, like when they're asking them about monsters right before they go to bed, and like the dad's just like, well, you know, humans are the real monsters.
And then the wife was like,
yeah, don't listen to him. And there was the dad has so many awesome lines, but I also just love how he owns his apathy Like he's just so like she'll just be like he fucking tries to dig in the hole one little dig and he's like and like he can't do anything, and then he tells the wife like, oh, looks like you're gonna have to pick up some more shifts, like. And it's like, that's a very big, like, fucking fuck you moment, but it's, I don't know, just the way that he did it, he made it funny and entertaining. Yeah, he was like, there was like another thing that he said as well. Hang on a second. When the mom fucking goes to like defend the kids when she first sees Psycho Goreman in their backyard, and like so she grabs the baseball bat and like tries to like protect her children, and the dad's like, no, my lucky bat.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like, fuck the kids, fuck the wife, my bat. The dynamic like of the characters, as you mentioned earlier, how they made the female characters like the more dominant ones, and because it's usually the opposite, right? And her attitude, obviously, at first is very endearing, because you don't see that in female characters, especially of her age, like in film very often. And then, but then when it gets to her head and she actually like starts to like be mean, like about it, and she turns into more and more of an asshole, that's like at a point where she abuses that power that she has, the bully power. And because like it's funny at the beginning, but then eventually like it turns toxic, because the brother Luke is obviously distraught. He doesn't want to be treated like shit anymore. Like there's obviously a line that she crossed and he wouldn't put up with it anymore, and like he finally like spoke up and at the end of the movie and like expressed how she makes him feel. And I love that even though she was too proud to say it, she still like did the like knocking, like I'm sorry, and that was adorable, because it was a thing that was just between the two of them, and it really did show their love, like their like brother and sister love again, and that conquered the evil because they finally like worked together, and then they helped each other and they defeated Pandora. So I think the lesson is that like, yes, be a badass, don't take no shit, but don't be a bully. Like don't be an asshole.
Yeah, I think Goreman also learned some stuff on that too, because
what is love? Is this love?
I mean, he was just ready to just conquer, but in the end, he ended up doing that anyway. When he went out there, he was destroying this. But he wasn't going. He promised, not to touch her family.
Yeah, her and her family. And like he never would have done that at the beginning of the movie. Like he at the beginning was like telling the mom, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. Like it just keeps like saying it over and over again. And then like he could have at that point at the end of the movie, but he made a friend. And I love that moment when she like blows him a kiss and he does it back and like puts it into his heart, and then he goes and like decimates
I know, he's like
the planet, and I know, right? I was just like, you're dead, you're dead.
Goreman is out there destroying the whole city, and the brain is having dinner with his parents. Poor Alistair. He didn't even get a chance. He is still, and his parents was like normal. They're at dinner, and he's just like.
It's so like silly. It was definitely
just like left
silly.
It like that. I was like, they're not gonna help this man. Like,
I know, right? Poor kid. He's just like fucked for life. Like, yeah, I like that they you could tell that they like had fun with it, like, but still had those moments of like meaningful like lessons. But one of my favorite things about this movie is in the monster fight in the woods, that like tin bucket with like fucking body parts inside of it that like shoots blood out of his like tube arms. I don't know if you noticed this, but like one of my favorite YouTube shows is the channel Red Letter Media, and there's that part with that bucket. He goes, "Oh my god!" Like that's Rich Evans, and like I remember when I first watched this movie, I was like, "That sounded like Rich Evans," and I like looked it up, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it was Rich Evans!" So that made me so happy. Like that character, he looked like a fucking Cannibal Corpse album cover. Like it was just like all these like shaking like limbs and severed heads inside of him, and the fact that it was Rich Evans that voiced him, that made me so happy. Like I was like, I need to fucking hang out with the man who made this movie, because I'm like, we have the exact same taste.
Yeah, this movie definitely has some interesting taste.
Yeah.
So if you guys have not seen it, please check out Psycho Goreman. It is different.
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable. And it's streaming right now on Shudder. Thank you so much, Yasmina. This was a lot of fun.
It sure was. We definitely could keep going on and on.
Oh my gosh. On and on and on. So it's so many great things in this film.
Definitely one of the best lines is when Psycho Goreman says, "I do not care for hunky boys," and he's like, "Maybe I do." Or do I? And at the end of the movie, when like the magazine gets destroyed, he's like, "Not my hunky boys." Like, yeah,
there's so many great things in this. It is very funny. Yeah. So where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram right there, Yasmina_666. Hail Satan. You can find us at witchfinger.com. Just go to ruemorgue.com and search the Rewind Zone. We're also Rewind Zone is on the Rue Morgue YouTube channel as well. I think that's it. I do a lot of stuff. Am I forgetting something?
She does a lot. I don't know. Are you?
I don't know. Just Google me.
There you go. Google. You can find anything about anyone. Just Google.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And if you guys want to watch more, thank you. If you guys want to watch more videos like this, make sure you hit subscribe, like, and don't forget to leave a comment on this video. And there are more Shudderary videos will be on your way. Thank you so much, Yasmina, and take care, you guys.
Welcome.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun. Watch Psycho Goreman.
Yeah.